Hey everyone, and happy Monday. This is the Change Book Podcast. You know, I always show up on Monday, and I'm your host, Nicole Harvick. And this is where we highlight our amazing authors. And today we have another amazing one. And I want to bring attention to Daniel Erbe. I cannot wait to hear about all his accomplishments, how amazing he is. So let's get to this interview. Good morning, Daniel. How are you?
Good morning, Nicole. It's a pleasure to be on the Change podcast. Woohoo!
I know, isn't it exciting? I love doing this. I love meeting our authors. I am never disappointed. We've got amazing people, and I'm just adding you right to the mix because I read your bio and it's pretty incredible, my friend. Pretty
Thank you very
incredible.
much.
You are so welcome. Now, tell me how you chose the Change Book.
Yeah, I was actually I got reached out from someone in the Jim Lutz company, and they introduced me to the Change series. They thought that my story would resonate with the audience, and I looked into it, and it's kind of a no-brainer to be able to work closely with Jim Lutz and Jim Britt. And then featured with Les Brown. So
yeah.
it's an opportunity for me to share my story to the masses and hopefully resonate with someone out there that either has gone through some of the same struggles that I have, or is looking for a new path forward that I can be some of assistance.
Wow, that's amazing. And what does it feel like to be on the cover?
Oh my gosh. So obviously we're still not in production quite yet as far as selling, but I've been giving out some teasers on my social media, and I put it on my cover profile, and I've got people reaching out to me like, "You wrote a book? You read a book? What?"
I sure did. I sure did.
And then the other question is, "Am I in it? Am I in it?"
No, it's all about me.
Yeah.
No, I read your bio and it's very, very interesting. And it's really diverse in my opinion, you know, where you've been, what you do. And one thing that I saw is you're a 13-year Army veteran.
I am.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so my 13-year career was with United States Army Field Band and the Soldiers Chorus. So that was my job in the military, was to represent the Army as a musician soldier or soldier musician, and travel the country sharing the Army story to the American public. There's no better job out there. So.
Wow, that's really, really interesting because I, for one, did not know that was even something that could be done. So obviously you have an amazing soprano voice, well, tenor voice. Is that
Tenor,
what it was? How does the Army find you, or how did that all come about?
Yeah, well, the Army does do outreach, and I was actually part of that, as a leader in the military, finding different ways to reach the masses for auditioning. However, when I auditioned, it was because I had a close friend that was in the organization. And for, I would say, about 4 years, he kept on putting and planting the seed of the Army profession as a musician. And at the time, I was pursuing my opera career, and I just told him, I said, "Nope, I'm going to be an opera singer. I'm moving to Europe. I'm going to be a star, and I'm going to have an opera singing career." And after about 4 years of really pursuing it very, very hard, uh, I had an audition season where I took on a lot of auditions, and this was one of them. And it was probably the hardest audition out there, versus any of the companies, but it was definitely the most rewarding Not just because they said, yes, we want you, but it allowed me to take a risk and take a chance and do something that is completely out of my comfort zone. Um, and there's no regrets because it just opened up a new world for me to be able to use my skill set as a singer for good, like a superhero uses their powers for good. And that's what I felt like I did through the military, representing the Army to the American public through my singing and through my voice.
And I love that because obviously I didn't know that was something that could be done, but I think it might humanize the Army a little bit in terms of, they've got so many different, excuse me, types of people, and there you are singing. And I think that's absolutely lovely. So when did your 13-year Army stint, when did you stop that and why?
So that is the story. But June 20, 2022. It's actually June 24th, 2022. So over a while, over my 13-year career, um, I faced significant challenges, whether it was personal challenges, whether it was professional challenges, whether it was vocal challenges. And I went through a lot of hurdles, a lot of ups and downs. One being not understanding where my place was in the ensemble. I it's a very competitive ensemble, and so I found myself competing with the two other really great singers for pretty much every opportunity, to be able to get on stage. And halfway through my career, I experienced significant vocal fatigue.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, and it was for me, it was just trying to figure out a way to switch between a choral setting and a solo setting. And over years and years and years of doing that and trying to fit in, I developed some major issues. And so
Mm.
it got me to a point though that I had to reevaluate my singing and reevaluate really what I wanted. So that began some of the journey of what are we doing with my life? But
Yeah.
I would say the culmination was, during the pandemic, there was a lot of people made a lot of life-changing decisions. And so and that was a time for me to start reevaluating where I wanted my life to go. And I would say it didn't help my decision that there was a mandate that was instilled uh, to take the COVID-19 vaccine. And I just felt at the time, my relationship with God had gotten stronger and stronger, and I felt like at this time it was time for me to make a bold choice, and that for me was following my own conscience and following where I believe that God wanted me to go. He didn't want me to take it, and I put in my exemption requests, which ultimately were denied. And I kind of felt that this was God just kind of sharing there's something else out there for you. And so it was a very challenging time. There were a lot of personal issues, there again, professional issues, and then this on top of it. But I was told at one time from my leadership that the Army may accept you to still stay in the Army. There's something might happen. They might relinquish the mandate, but I can't see how you can ever be a singer again in the Army. And that really, really stuck with me. It was very hurtful, but it made me feel as though, okay, um, right now, the world doesn't really want musicians and singers that aren't going to comply. And I saw a lot of that happening in the entertainment business. And I mean, not to go off on a complete tangent, but they shut down the entire city of New York, and everybody that was in Broadway and the Metropolitan Opera and any of those, they had to prove that they had taken the shot in order for them to keep their career and keep their job. So ultimately, there were a lot of decisions. There were a lot of things weighing on me, and this was just kind of a nail in the coffin. So.
Wow. So here's what I think I'm hearing you say. Did they hold your singing career over you to get you to take that vaccine? Did you feel that way?
No, no, there was no pressure from
Okay.
any of my immediate leadership at all. It was the pressure from the main army, where we, as I guess people that were holding out, had heard rumors that this is going to go on for a while. Uh, you're not going to get your benefits. You're going to be discharged dishonorably or other than honorable, which will affect any type of career advancement in the civil world outside of the military. And there was just a lot of pressure. And so at the time, my enlistment was coming up. And it was just time for me it was time for me to move on. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure. There's also coercion. There's also um there were a lot of people, a lot of soldiers that were in far worse situations than me. But ultimately there were 8,000 over 8,000 solar soldiers, airmen, and other military service people that they had to make a choice as well. And ever since, the army has rescinded and has allowed people to come back in, but very, very few people have actually decided to rejoin the military. So
Wow.
it's just, it was a trying time for a lot of people, and it was just time for me to make a bold choice and a bold decision. And again, there was other reasons, but that was one of them.
Well, you know what? I love that story, and I love that you held your ground with what was right for you. What was right for you. I have a nephew in that situation, and he left the Marines after 14 years. They wouldn't even take a religious exemption. So he says, I'm out. So
Yes.
congratulations. And, one of the things that I love about this is you're a tenor that has performed for presidents and dignitaries. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it was such a wonderful, fortunate career that I had in the military. And so several times I had the opportunity to perform for former President Barack Obama, former President Donald Trump, and then with the Joint Armed Forces Chorus, sang at George Bush's funeral, where there were 5 living presidents in attendance, among global dignitaries, and lots of very influential politicians. And so it's quite an amazing opportunity to be at the Washington Cathedral and look out, and you see 5 living presidents, and you see the global dignitaries, and you see them all in attendance. It's quite shocking. So
I was just going to ask you, how does one feel? How is it intimidating to get up there? Is it just your job? What is the mindset when you know there are 5 ex-presidents and dignitaries in that room?
Yeah, the mindset is having a sense of pride and accomplishment because of everyone in that situation in uniform. We've all had to go through a lot of situations in our life to be able to wear the uniform, but also to be able to have the honor of being a soldier musician. And so it's just it's a humbling experience to be among the elite musicians of the military, and then having the Marine Orchestra there with the colleagues of the Armed Forces chorus, being in such a regal, um, environment as the Washington Cathedral and performing for all these dignitaries. It's like pinch me. So
Am I really here?
yeah, and the music, oh my goodness. So every year in January, the Armed Forces Chorus would get together at the Marine Barracks to rehearse with the orchestra, um, in in the event that there was going to be a presidential funeral. And we rehearsed the same music over and over because we had been planning for a Bush funeral for years. But when it's the culmination and everything comes together, and you just hear that just majestic sound of the orchestra resonating throughout the cathedral, and us singing some of the most powerful hymns and powerful music out there. It's just it's hard to put words in, but there is just such a it's a humbling, magical experience that you just have to you take it in, and you don't take it for granted.
Yeah, I think about that, and I've been in seen the cathedral. It's huge, isn't it?
It is. It's huge, and it's got tall ceilings, and it's perfect for any type of musical event because the acoustics are just absolutely just spot on, and it's just a really, I mean, it was such a magical moment. We had to get there early. We did this twice, I believe. We had a dress rehearsal and then the performance. And the dress rehearsal, we had to go through the entire security protocol. I believe we met at Fort Myer, 4 o'clock or so in the morning, maybe 4 or 5.
Ooh.
We had to go through a complete security protocol where they would sweep the buses and then escort us into DC and then do another sweep and then go through. And this was just the rehearsal, so that for the performance, everything just went clockwork because the security was there, Secret Service was there, and it's always an amazing, an awe-striking opportunity to be part of incredible operations like this, like inauguration parades. We had to go through the same security sweeps. We met at the Pentagon at like 4 o'clock in the morning for like
Wow.
a 1 o'clock or 2 p.m. performance. So
That's a lot of work, isn't it?
it is, but it's hats off to the security, soldiers and Secret Service and DoD for doing such an amazing amount of prep work and then execution to protect all of the important dignitaries that were in attendance.
Wow. And when you're doing this, I know like military gets stationed in certain places. Where was your, I guess, home base or the whole group's home base?
Yeah, so the United States Army Field Band, our home base is at Fort Meade, Maryland,
Okay.
in Odenton, Maryland. and it is a permanent duty station. So what I mean is a lot of MOSs. It's the career in the military. A lot of MOSs, they'll hop from base to base, from station to station. With this opportunity, it was a permanent duty station. So as long as I wanted to stay in the military in one ensemble at the United States Army Field Band, that would have been and could have been my 20 or 30-year career. And in one place, in Fort Meade, that's where we rehearsed. That's where our home base was. That's Garrison. But then the other part of our mission was to travel. We're the musical ambassadors of the Army. We're the most traveled musicians in the Army, in the military, actually. And we spent over 120 days on the road per year, about a third, and performing for the American public in 50 states. I was in 48 states and Puerto Rico. But also members of the band have performed all over the world. So
and that's what I was going to ask you. Are you outside of the United States as well? Do you get like invitations to show up to other things as well?
Yeah. So during my time in Puerto Rico, which is still part of the United States, but we were during the hurricane, or the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, the DoD sent in Army engineers, and a lot of deployments were in Puerto Rico to help out the Puerto Rico citizens and community. And we were trying to figure out what we could do. And so it was proposed that we could come in as a chorus and do a helping and healing mission tour. And so the DoD sent us, the Department of Army sent us to do, I think it was 9 or 12 days of traveling around Puerto Rico, just like we do in the lower 48 states. And we gave concerts to the Puerto Rican community. So it's pretty awesome.
That is amazing. And they say music tames the savage beast. So, after a hurricane, I'm sure that there was, a lot of worry and people that were frightened. So that's super interesting. I love learning about this, because this is something I never knew about. So this is fascinating to me. So I love hearing about it. But and I know that you did the Falling and Rising opera. You were integral in that for the Army.
Yes.
I want to hear about that.
Yeah, and actually, the idea started, and not to put too much, kudos on myself, but the idea started when I and several colleagues, we took it upon ourselves to do an abridged opera of Così fan tutte that was performed at the Kennedy Center. And this is right when I first got in. And when I first got in, I just noticed there was so much talent, and there were so many soldiers that had either opera careers, or they had pursued an opera career. They were in, in the conservatory, and I thought, what an amazing opportunity for us to be able to highlight, our incredible talents. So we put together an abridged version of Così fan tutte. So fast forward a year later. And a friend from the opera world, he won a position in the Soldiers Chorus, and he noticed that, again, we had a lot of talent. So he decided to build upon that performance and start an opera scenes performance series. And then from that, it built. We were going to hire out a director, hire out a conductor, and use some of the musicians in the band to start playing as part of a wind ensemble, a small chamber ensemble. And that grew from an opera series, opera scenes series that was performing in local outreach venues, to then the first fully commissioned opera for the United States Army,
Wow.
commissioned by, I think it was 8 to 10 major opera companies like Seattle Opera, Memphis Opera, Fort Worth Opera, Arizona Opera. And my colleague took it upon himself to speak with leadership, to influence and ultimately convince leadership that this is very crucial and very important to have, to be able to reach a different community, the opera community, and then share the Army story, share the veteran story. And so, just to kind of wrap up, but we commissioned a librettist, a composer, an outside civilian creative team to choose the cast. And I was chosen to create the tenor role, which gave me the opportunity to workshop, going through all of the changes of the music, of the libretto, which is the story, which is the which is the words. And we performed the world premiere in Fort Worth, Texas, at Texas Christian University. And yeah, I was in the opening night cast, and it allowed the opportunity for the Army to tell a true story of the soldier that experienced an IED, and from that, a traumatic brain injury. And it was a
Ooh.
true story of a wounded warrior at Walter Reed. And it went through a series of past figures in his life that was influential in the Army, through like a dream sequence.
Mm.
And it's just fascinating. It's so well written. The music is just so beautiful. I had the opportunity to perform it at the New Works Forum. It's the Opera America New Works Forum in New York City at the Alvin Ailey Theater. And from that, we performed it at New Orleans Opera. After I left, they performed it at Arizona Opera, San Diego Opera, and now it's performed all over the United States in pretty much every opera company out there. And so, yeah, my colleague took it upon himself to say, hey, I think I can really make a difference and reach a different community, which is the opera community. And I had an integral part in it. It's
That's
really
what a lasting legacy. I mean, isn't that's really amazing. I get goosebumps when you're telling me about it. So I know that your career in the Army is over, but I want you to tell our audience, our fellow authors, what are you doing now and how do you help people?
Yeah. So I thought, after I left the military, obviously I was kind of, singing and music wasn't necessarily on the forefront of my mind. It was a traumatic experience for me. Uh, but I regained that confidence in not even just myself, in people, that they appreciate singing and they appreciate music. And I found myself on the political trail uh, in Georgia.
Wow.
And just through a series of connections, I met with Tulsi Gabbard, of all
Okay.
people. And through that connection, I found myself singing at a political rally for Herschel Walker. And then from that, they invited me back, and I sang 5 rallies. I ended up singing at the College Football Hall of Fame, for what was supposed to be his celebration evening. And then it just kind of just started. I started performing in state, local, and then national political events. Found myself singing at CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference in DC as a soloist. And I got myself involved in the political world. And then my day job, I found myself in the Department of Defense again, in the Pentagon. And I just noticed there are a lot of speakers out there. There are a lot of people that are taking the stage, whether it's with their career, whether it's their politics. And I just kind of thought, with my background as a professional singer and stage performer in opera, musical theater, and the Army, why not help and serve other presenters to command their voice, to be able to give their message with confidence, with polish. And so they're kind of birthed this business idea. And so that's what I do now is I help, I serve other entrepreneurs and business owners, authors, speakers, any type of communicators that have a message they want to present in a confident way, but they are still struggling with limiting beliefs like stage fright and performance anxiety and vocal fatigue, which is definitely something that I have overcome. And I can help communicators overcome those struggles. Being now part of speaking communities, I understand the importance of having skills and techniques. When you get up on stage, it's not just about just share your message and share your story, and everyone is just going to just come to you. No. Obviously, message and story and presentation is the cherry on top, but the voice is the most important element of a communicator, whether it's a singer and whether it's a speaker. So I help develop speaking voices to have a commanding and resonant presence so they can go out there, deliver their message on video, in person, on stage, in a confident, collected, concise manner, and to ultimately command the stage.
That is amazing. That's a beautiful way to wrap it up for us. You know, we're at the end of our time now, but what a unique path you've had.
Thank you.
Interesting, very interesting. I'm so glad you agreed to join us today.
Absolutely.
You're one of our amazing authors, and I love to highlight each and every one of you. And what I've done for the audience out there is I have put all of Daniel's links in the description. So there's many places to get a hold of him.
Yes.
I would say reach out. This man is amazing. So Daniel, thank you so much for agreeing to be here today.
Yes.
Fascinating interview, my friend. Fascinating.
Absolutely. And for the audience members out there, my links will be there with Nicole, but I'm also offering a free breathing video in breathwork. Very important to understand how the breath works so that you can communicate with your body, mind, and breath connection.
So. Ooh, I love that. I love breath work. Where do I get it? Where do I sign up?
Absolutely. You'll have the link. It'll go to a YouTube, and then you can present that to the community, and everyone can have access to that. And then to know where to find me, to be able to have a call, and how I can help and I can serve them and get them to overcome their struggles, to get them on the path to communicating effectively and with resonance.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank our audience for watching. And I'm Nicole Harvick. I will be back next week, excuse me, at 10 a.m. Eastern Time with another amazing author. So thank you, everyone. I will see you next week.
Thanks, Nicole. Thank you, everyone.